So, surprisingly, I don't know how many minutes we're on, but I've already told my entire routine except for 1 or 2 jokes maybe. So I'm going to go ahead and tell this last one. This is actually a true story. Everybody act like you're all heartfelt for a second. No, just kidding. It's not sad. So, one of the things I was always thinking about that I might talk about in stand-up comedy, which some of you know, a lot of you actually know, and a lot of you might not, is when I first came to church. My first experiences at church. My first experiences at church were 11 years ago, in whatever year it was 11 years ago. And I was whatever age I was 11 years ago. I'm thinking that's like 13 or something. Well, my first experiences in church, all I remember is going into the church and you sit down and they tell you to go to this book and that book after the music service and all that. And does anybody have a Bible I can use for a second? Oh, snap. There's no reason for those, snap. That's my punchline. There's always a point in the service, and Pastor knows this because I'm quoting him on this, where the pastor always says something towards the end of the service, and he's always like, all right, you guys, so everybody turn to 2 Samuel 15. I'm going to read this, and then I'll be done. And then he starts reading it, and the one thing that I always thought when I was brand new to the church was that he really was going to be done after that. Now, I wasn't really that much into Christianity. I'm going to get to the Bible back here real quick. I wasn't really that much into Christianity at the time. I was just kind of that sinner kid that was coming to church. But I got to be honest with you, as the average sinner-faking Christian, you always believe, for some reason, that when he says that, no matter how many times you heard it, you think he's actually going to be done. You're like, I'm going to read Samuel 15:2, and then I'm going to be done. And then he reads it, and then there's like a 20-minute patch after that where they're still talking. That's cool. Now, as a Christian, that's cool. I like hearing it. It's a beautiful thing to hear the sermons and everything. But as a sinner, you're not that into it. As a sinner, they go on for the 20 more minutes. But then the thing that really weirds me out, which actually happens before the preaching, is there's always the worship service where everybody's up here doing the music. Worship, sorry, I pronounced that wrong. There's always up here doing the music. And I remember I'd be like sitting, all the stuff was in the center here. We were in a different building back then, but I'd be all the way in the back, and they'd be up here doing it. And I'd be like sitting down. I'm like, all right, everybody's sitting down. That's cool. I can do that. Sit down, everybody's standing up. I'm like, oh, a little bit of cardio exercise. I can do that. Standing up a little bit. Then I notice everybody's kind of clapping their hands, so I'm doing this a little bit. Everybody. That's all I thought they do. I didn't think there was anything more than that. But then that's cool for the fast songs. That's what they're doing constantly. And then the slow songs come around. First thing I notice is the clapping stopped. I can deal with that. That's cool. Next thing I notice, all of a sudden, people start speaking a weird foreign language that I have never heard in my entire life. And I'm like, I could have sworn this was an English-speaking church. I could be wrong. This might be the Spanish congregation. Maybe I'm in the wrong building. This could even be Russian. I don't know. I don't speak any of it. So you get a little confused there. Speaking, I'm going to sidetrack real quick. There's a joke that I forgot to put in that would be great for this. How much time am I on, first of all? Am I doing good? I'm good? All right, I'm good. There's one thing I've always wondered. Don't let me forget where I was sidetracking on. There's one thing I've always wondered. Do you ever go up to somebody and you say something to them, but then you realize they don't speak English? And then after that, do you ever speak louder and slower and think that all of a sudden they're going to pick it up then? Because I see people doing that all the time. They're always like, hey, how you doing? And the guy's like, oh, no. They're like, oh, he doesn't speak English. Got it. Hey, how you doing? Like he just gets in there and go, oh, good. But then you gotta wonder, it's like, how does this actually look to you? You know what I mean? Like, how would you feel if you were the guy that didn't speak English and somebody was saying, like, picture this. Let me make sure I got my language terms down here, because I know a little hair of Russian, and I'm gonna try to use that here. Somebody goes up to you, they're like, oh, доброе утро, нас not gone yet. And you're like, oh, no. Oh, no Russian. Доброе утро, нас not gone yet. You're like, oh, I got it. Okay, so what you're trying to say is, have a good day, they're not going to get us, because that's really what I just said in Russian. So back to the subject. So anyhow, you're in church, you hear everybody speaking the tongue. You don't know what's tongue. Sorry, forget I said that. Forget I said that. Cancel that out. You hear people start speaking Spanish and Russian and whatever other foreign language you think you understand. And then the weirdest thing, you can comprehend with that, you just kind of start speaking like I don't know, Lego characters or something like that. You're like Pinocchio. There was something somebody used, or it was somebody quoted something that was supposed to sound like tongues. Were they in here tonight? Should have bought a Honda, that's what it is. You're like, should have bought a Honda, Toyota, Mitsubishi, because you have no idea what they're saying. But then the weirdest thing comes on, and you notice that everybody's hand starts to slowly go up. You notice that everybody in there is going up, and you're like, what is this? You're thinking whether you should do it or not. And you look up on the stage, and in this case, you would see like Faith over here on the piano, and you would see Faith, and she would point to somebody in the group, and she'd go, I can't remember, she'd point to somebody in the group, so I'd realize she's pointing to them, and I'd start to try and do what they're doing, because she was going like this. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it, there we go. And then I'd start thinking, maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. You get a little worried, and you're all of a sudden... But then it gets a little weird, because then she looks straight at me, and she goes like this. She goes, and I'm like... Hands were shaking and everything. I was terrified, to be honest. I realized that I had just been pinpointed in an audience full of people, but then it came to me. Then it came to me that she wasn't pointing at me. It came to me that she was pointing at the sound guy behind me. I was like... And I'll tell you why I knew that. I knew she was pointing at the sound guy behind me, because I looked back there and he was going... Alright guys, that was my closer. Thank you very much. On the real though, you guys, I've been going here for 11 years. I love all you guys. You guys are my best friends. I'll see you when I get back.